everybody. Welcome to the Good Evening Kitties podcast. My name is Melissa. I'm your ghostess with the mostest, and today we are talking about Season 1, Episode 5, Lover Come Hack to Me. This episode, it was good. I didn't really remember this one from when I've seen it before. This one's definitely more frisky, I guess you would say, and more bloody, definitely, than ones previously. But I mean, it's still early in the series, and they're kind of starting to get a rhythm now. Even in the beginning, the Crypt Keeper is, saying it's good to have you back, and it's kind of getting more of a rhythm. I think they're really starting to hit their stride here as the season's going. The season's almost over, because episode 6 is the last in season 1, but this is when they were really kind of just wrapping up the first season. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read here from the description from the inside of the complete first season DVD that I have here for Tales from the Crypt. Again, this one's called Lover Come Hack to Me. The screenplay was written by Michael McDowell. It's directed by Tom Holland. Tom Holland also directed Child's Play, and he did 2 other Tales from the Crypt episodes. It was originally aired June 21st, 1989. And as always, John Kassir is playing the Crypt Keeper, or the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and Danny Elfman does the theme song for Tales from the Crypt. Here's what it says for the description for the episode Lover Come Hack to Me. It says here: her stocks, bonds, house. Charles loves everything about Peggy and wants to make sure their honeymoon is a night of murderous passions. But there's a family secret Peggy never told him. So it kind of leaves it at that. So we're getting to the episode here. This episode has a small cast. It's only like 4 people, I think, that are in it. Mainly Amanda Plummer, who plays Peggy. She's best known for playing Honey Bunny in Pulp Fiction. So if for any of you who like that movie, it's a great movie. Yeah, she plays Honey Bunny. And then it also has Stephen Shellen playing Charles, who is her husband. He was in many other movies. He was also in A River Runs Through It. We're going to go ahead and get started here on the episode. Basically, this episode, you have the Crypt Keeper. He's here. He's kind of welcoming you back. He takes a cleaver and he stabs a fake, I don't know if it's a real piece of meat or just like it's supposed to be a heart. I think it's supposed to be a heart. And he's basically opening up the episode. He still looks good. The Crypt looks great. I really like what they do with him. It's neat to see his mouth move, and like you can see he has a tongue and everything. Like they go really all out in the puppetry. So he opens up the book again. It shows the Tales from the Crypt EC comic version on the inside for Lover Come Hack to Me. So it starts out here. There's a house, and it says Justice of the Peace, which I think is kind of funny that it's like it literally is just someone's house. And then you put a sign out that says Justice of the Peace, and I guess we're supposed to automatically assume they got married, which they did. They're leaving the Justice of the Peace right now. They had a very small wedding. It's just Peggy and her Aunt Edith and the ordained minister and then her new husband, Charles. And so they're hugging each other, and they're getting ready to leave to go on their honeymoon. And Aunt Edith is very concerned about this, which really, you wait to the last minute. They kind of already got married, and then isn't that kind of part of the, I don't think anyone really does that anymore, where it's part of the wedding to be like, if anyone objects to, say their piece or, say what they have a problem with or ever for hold their peace. I don't know if they did that here, but Aunt Edith is like waiting until the really last minute as she's getting ready to get into the car to leave for her honeymoon to tell her that she shouldn't do this, and he only wants you for your money.
Peggy, you'll live to regret this day.
Please, don't spoil my happiness, Aunt Edith.
Peggy, I'm only thinking of your happiness. And you'll live to regret this day, too.
Why would I ever regret marrying the woman that I love?
You don't love her. You love the fortune that her mother left her.
And your stocks and bonds and everything you have. And so they have a bunch of cans tied onto the car like you do. And so Aunt Edith is telling Charles that you don't love her, you just love her money. And, he's kind of cocky about it. And he's just like, you can move out. We're kicking you out of this house that we live in. And I guess she lives there with Peggy, who's her niece. And you know, he's like, you can just get out and all this stuff, and, you know, and they'll be back in a week, beginning here to kind of set the mood here that they're leaving, and it's not on the best note, but they're heading out on their honeymoon, and they just got married. And as they pull away, and Edith kind of has a smile to her face, which at first I didn't catch that, but now that I kind of rewatched it and kind of looked through it again, it's like, okay, so I mean, she kind of knows, you know, there's something kind of nefarious going on around here, but you don't really know what. And this episode here, it was originally published by William M. Gaines in the comic magazine entitled The Haunt of Fear. So this was one of the comics kind of stories that came from, you know, that era in the like 50s and things like that brought this show. So that's interesting to know. So now it's storming. They've driven part of the night. It's nighttime now. They've probably driven, you know, 3 or 4 hours or more. It's getting late. It's storming, and, you know, they're driving through. He's asking her, Charles is like, you know, can we see where we are? And she's staring at the map, but somehow she's like, oh, I can't read maps. And it's like, okay, then why are you looking at it? So then they get to this point where it's kind of broken down. There's like a tree in the middle of the road, probably got struck down by lightning or something like that. And so they're stuck. And so, you know, she's like, well, we could turn around. We could try to go back. I don't know if we make it to the hotel in time, and, you know, it could take us all night. And he's like, well, what do you want me to do? And she's like, well, could you go out there and move it? And of course he doesn't want to get wet. I mean, it's raining really hard. And so he asks for a flashlight. And when he goes to get the flashlight, or she goes to get the flashlight out from the glove compartment where she has it, a gun comes out. It's like a small, I think like a 38 comes out. You know, he's kind of acting like, you know, where'd that come from? You know, part of me's like, it's probably his. He's playing it off really cool. And she's like, oh, I don't know. I've never seen it before. And he's also kind of like, is that yours? And she's like, no. And then, so he just like puts it on Aunt Edith, saying, you know, maybe she threw it in there, you know. And so she's like, here's the flashlight, and go ahead if you can. I mean, it's a pretty big tree, but she was like, try to move it out of the way. And he's like, okay, fine. So he heads outside. He's got all his clothes on and things like that. And he's out there trying to move the tree. And he looks over kind of on the side there, and there's a house. It's a pretty big house, kind of old, to the side there, and kind of convenient. And the first thing I think of, like, is Rocky Horror Picture Show. Right away, I see the house, and it's stormy, and I'm like, ooh, this situation is really the Rocky Horror Picture Show right now. It's like the two just married couple, they get broken down, it's a house, you know, oh man, is Riff Raff gonna start singing? You know, so it's like, that comes out, and, you know, it lights up the house. It's really old looking mansion. It doesn't look super dilapidated, but I mean, it definitely looks abandoned. He gets back inside. He's like, I can't move the tree. Where's the car keys? She's like, I don't have them. She's like, you must have grabbed them. And so I went back and I did take a look, and he does grab them. He grabs them, and I don't know if or at least it looks like he did. He takes them out. I don't know if he put them in the car or not, but somehow they're missing. But he did take them out of the ignition. So I don't know if he just dropped it or something like that. So she's like, you know, you probably took it with him, which he did take them out of the ignition. Again, I don't know if he took them with him, but he's pretty upset about it. So they're like, well, now what do we do? So then they head over to the house. They get there, you know, she grabs her bags, and it's pouring rain, and they're running, and they get to the front door, and they're knocking on it, and nobody's home, and, you know, trying to figure out, like, should we break in? Should we, you know, figure it out? And she ends up bumping a flower pot, and a old skeleton key comes out from under the flower pot, which I found pretty convenient. Knowing this show could come to play later, and maybe it does, we'll see. But the skeleton key comes out, they open it up, they go inside. It's really, well, before they go inside, because they did just get married, she wants her to carry her over the threshold into this house, and it's like, you don't know whose house this is, and it's a horrible situation. I wouldn't want to be there. I mean, at least you have somewhere nice and dry to go, but I mean, it's not, you don't know if anyone's even home. Why would you carry over the threshold, you know? But she wants him to, and he's like, okay. And so he carries over the threshold, and they go inside, and it's pretty dilapidated house. At least the wallpaper is. It looks like someone just took, like they just pulled strands of like they were trying to take the wallpaper off, and then like a giant cat just went and tried to take the wallpaper off and then gave up. And, you know, it's pretty dilapidated, and so they go inside, and they're walking around kind of checking the place out. And they try the phone, and there's no dial tone on the phone. And really, as this episode unfolds, like I remember I haven't seen this episode in a really long time, and part of me already goes into the episode being like, okay, I'm looking for clues that are going to let me in on the show. And, you kind of start picking up on certain things, just wondering which one's going to screw the other one up, kind of thing. And, and so she's checking, there's no dial tone, on the phone. And, but there's some flowers in the vase that don't look too dead. And there's signs of someone maybe being around. It's dirty, but it's not like super bad. But I mean, it still looks like it's being rehabilitated. So they go into like a parlor, and there's like some covered up furniture and like a small couch, and it's in front of this fireplace, and there's a huge like battleaxe on top of the fireplace. And it's pretty, I noticed it right away. And then, Peggy sees it, and she's like, oh my gosh. And so Charles makes like not interesting, but like a corny, like old battleaxe mother-in-law kind of joke about it. They're looking at it, looking around, and Peggy notices that it looks like maybe someone started to set the fire for them, or like started to get it ready. And he's like, oh, okay, well, sure. So he just lights it up. He's not even super, he tells her to take her clothes off, and she's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he's like, it's their first night together, and she wants everything to be perfect. And she's a virgin, we learn. And so, she wants her wedding night to be perfect. And he's like, kind of being creepy about them seeing each other naked for the first time. Not really the best time to bring it up, personally. Like, it's like you just got to this scary place, you don't know what's going on. But he was like, no, basically what I'm saying is we should dry our clothes by the fire. And she's like, okay, well, let me go get my bags. So she heads out into the hall to get her bags. And I think while she's out there, she winds the clock. First, she starts making herself at home, kind of in a little way. She winds the clock up so it's clicking, or so it's ticking away. So she goes out there and she gets her bags. And she comes back in, and she's kind of starting to undress slightly, and she's starting to explain to him, she really does want her wedding night to be perfect, and she feels like, maybe my Aunt Edith was right. You did marry me for my money.
You're not really attracted to me, are you?
What are you talking about?
My aunt was right, wasn't she?
So he's completely undressed, and she seems kind of freaked out about it. But, she's just nervous and things. And so he's saying to her, no, I do want you. And he brings her back over by the fire on the couch, and, she's like, no, she doesn't want to do it there. She wants it to be perfect. So she wants to go find a bedroom or find a bed. And he's like, okay, well, we'll see if we can find one. I don't know, you get some male booty in this scene, a little bit. There is some male booty nudity and things like that, and it gets even crazier in a little bit here. But like I said, it's a very frisky episode, and quite a bit of blood. Not super gory, but just blood. And so so they're looking around, and as she goes out into the hall, he hears the clock ticking, and that's when he brings it up. He's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, just makes me feel better when the clock's ticking and things like that." And she goes to turn on the light for the stairs, and that's, it's kind of interesting to me a little bit, because I'm like, well, now the lights are on. Earlier, there was no dial tone on the phone. I mean, maybe they just didn't pay their phone line, or maybe it was the storm. The storm knocked out the electricity temporarily, and now it's back on. So she turns on the light on the stairwell, and she starts to head upstairs. She's searching for a bed, and he's kind of down there like, and he is kind of in it for the money. He's planning on killing her. I don't know why you do it on the first night, personally, but I don't think there's really much to get, like, money-wise for that. But in the 90s, or late 80s, early 90s, in these kind of shows, it was always, like, especially a lot of the episodes in this, I've noticed, it's a lot of, like, getting married or doing something for the money, and then, like, right away killing the person, or something. So, anyway, so they head upstairs, and she walks into this room, and she finds this bedroom. And it looks great. And that's right away I'm like, okay, no. She's got something going on. She's planning something. She's got something planned. The bedroom looks immaculate. There's a bunch of candles that are not lit. The bed looks like it's just been made. She even mentions that. She's like, oh, look, it looks like it's just made for us. And the rest of the house looks like crap. So she's just like, she's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go into the bathroom and, make myself nice. And you kind of get everything situated and light the candles so it'll be perfect. And he's like, all right. And yeah, like I said, it looks too good. I would be suspicious because I'd be like, no one's here. Yet this bedroom looks like that. Like, I'd be like, what is going on, So he's upstairs. He puts the gun down. He brought the gun in with him, which he's planning to use, which I'm pretty sure it is his gun, I think. So he puts it on the nightstand, and he kind of gets into the bed and waiting for her to come out, figuring out what's going on. And she's in there talking about, she wants this to be perfect. And, I think she kind of understands that it may not be a perfect love, but she's wanting it to be. So while she's up there, she decides to get herself all dolled up. She's getting herself all fancy for him. She puts on some sexy lingerie, and she's getting all her makeup did. She does her hair up real nice. She's doing all that. And she comes out of the bedroom just looking sassy. She was out there, she comes out like, hey, just snap, snap, snap. And she comes out there and he's like, whoa, maybe this isn't such a bad idea after all. Maybe I could figure this out. Or he's instantly like kind of smitten with her, but I think it's like a love lust thing, but it's still, he's just like, oh, okay, cool. I thought this was going to be different, but all right. And so again, she wants this night to be perfect. And they go on to do their sexy thing, and they're doing that. And it is some horrible sex noises. That's all I gotta say about that. It is crazy. It's kind of a long scene. And, they show the clock as it strikes midnight, and the sex noises get worse. And it strikes midnight, and then it's so loud that the glass on the clock breaks. And I'm just like, okay. And so then that's over. And then afterwards, she kind of tells him, that was perfect. And he's like, yeah, it was perfect. And so even temporarily, they had like a perfect love there a little bit. And so she's happy with that. And she right away is telling him, like, I know we made a baby and it's a little girl and she's, so big, like holding up her fingers. And part of me is like, that is creepy, but all right. I don't think you should say that, but yeah, she's like, and he's just like, okay, sure, whatever. Like, sure, we did. And she says to him, this is as perfect as it'll ever get. So then next it's showing, some of the candles have gone out. Time has passed a little bit. He has fallen asleep in bed. And he hears some noises outside. He gets up. And he's kind of heading downstairs. He hears a car door close. And he's like, whoa, and like for a second you're like, is she just running off on him? Or like what's going on? And, this guy's coming out and she runs out there and she's hugging on him. And it's a new guy. He's in like a old red Cadillac kind of thing. They're real excited to see each other. And right away, I'm already onto it a little bit because I noticed right away, like she's in a different robe. She was in like a black robe earlier, like real see-through thing. And now it's like a pink thing. And the car is old and it's just weird. So part of me is like, okay. And so they run inside and, you can tell that they're excited to be together, kind of thing. And right away, like when Charles comes out to kind of take a look and he's on the stairwell kind of like hiding and watching them. And, this new guy comes in and they're saying, they're saying how much they want to be together and let's go into the parlor and be together and all that stuff. And right away, I also noticed that Peggy's hair is like a different style. It's kind of an older kind of 50s or 60s kind of hairstyle. So I'm kind of already like, okay, is this some sort of like time thing? And, so she basically rips his shirt off, this new guy, just breaks his shirt off, like attacks him all crazy like, and they end up doing the sex thing on that little couch or whatever. And so, so they're done doing that again. It's kind of weird. It's just, I was supposed to be passionate, but gosh, the thing that was bugging me, I think the most is both of the couples, they don't know how, like the kissing, it was a lot of tongue and it was just like, like it was just a lot. And so I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. So they're done and they're done doing the sex and it strikes midnight again. And so I'm like, okay, now it's definitely some sort of like time thing or something. And so she's talking to this guy that she just got done with and or doing the, stuff with. And then Charles is on the side kind of watching them like, what the heck? I thought she married me. Like, there's this other guy. Like, fine. He's like, whatever, fine. I didn't love her anyway. I'm going to probably kill her anyway. I don't know what's going on. I'm the one who has the papers and I can get the money and things like that. I'm not sure if it works that way. I think there's like a period of time before you get, and I don't think you get all the person's money. I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you did back then in 1989. So he's watching Peggy with this other guy, and she says that she's not going to let time spoil their love. And he's watching them, and the guy kind of falls asleep, and so she's like, I'm pretty sure, she tells the same guy, like, I'm pretty sure we made a baby girl, and it's gonna, I don't want to spoil our perfect love, and this isn't gonna last forever, probably as perfect. And so he has fallen asleep on the couch, and she's still talking about it, kind of, and she goes and pulls the battle axe off the top of the fireplace where the fire's still going, and she wants to wake him up before she kills him. So it's like she goes over there and she's like, hey, and I think his name is Alan, the guy that she's with, and she's like, hey, wake up. And the guy like wakes up and he's, what? And then she's like, this is the way love should be. And then she just like hacks them to pieces. Like, they don't, I mean, it's, and there's just blood everywhere. It's not super bad, but it's pretty like, she's putting no passion in the killing, really. It's just like over and over and over, and like, so this guy's super dead, and so Charles is really freaking out now because he's like, what is going on? And he just can't believe what he's seeing. He's like, what? Okay, and so he's freaking out, and he runs out there and he goes to grab her, and he goes right through her, and right away I'm like, okay, there it is. That's yep, this is a different time period. Yeah. And so he's trying to grab her, and he's like, it's not Peggy, what's going on? They're both ghosts. Like, he figures it out pretty quick. He's like, oh my gosh. And he's freaking out. He's like, oh my gosh. And so, yeah, the guy's name is Alan. And, he tells her, he's like, or she tells him, she's like, Alan, I want to preserve our love. And then right away, Charles is in the side, and he's like, okay, well, they're ghosts. He's got that. And he quickly comes to this conclusion. He's like, Peggy's father was named Alan. And this chick looks just like Peggy, and then this guy's name is Alan, and then he died before Peggy was even born. So, like, am I seeing something? Like, what is going on? And so the lady who's on top of Alan is now, like, kissing him and getting blood on her mouth. And she's like, I think Peggy would be a perfect name for a little girl. What do you think? So it's kind of basically what he's seen is what had happened before. Peggy's mother was crazy and wanted her love to be perfect. And so after she felt like they conceived a little girl that she was going to name Peggy, she killed her husband, Alan, on their wedding night in this house. And basically, that's how it went on. And now Peggy has been doing something similar. So is she going to kill Charles now and have this girl? We're going to find out here. Charles is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is what I'm looking at, And he's screaming. He's like, please, please let me be dreaming. Please, please. He's screaming. There's blood everywhere. And he's like, can't believe this. And then, bam, he shoots up out of bed. And he's like, oh, thank you. He's like, yes, it was a nightmare. Woo! He's like, that's crazy. And he wakes up in the bed, and he's back in the house. And Peggy's kind of consoling him. She's like, it was okay. It's just a nightmare. You're fine. Just a nightmare. And he's like, oh my gosh. And then so she's like, well, what did you dream about? And so he tells her. And he's just like, yeah, it was crazy. It was about your parents and like killing them and things like that. She's like, really? That's weird. Because that's exactly what happened on the night I was conceived, And he's like, wait, what? And she's like, I want what my mom had. And she pulls out that battle axe. She's like, I want a perfect honeymoon, a perfect love, ones that she can make sure will never spoil. And he's in the bed, and he's like, wait, we don't have a perfect love. I married you for your money. I don't give a crap, And she's just like, that's not true. We just had a perfect time. And he goes to grab the gun off the nightstand, and he's holding it up in her, and he's like, seriously, I was going to kill you with this. And she's like, go ahead. You love me too much to shoot me. And he's like, okay, I was going to kill you and blame it on a burglar. And he's like, okay, here I go. And so he goes to shoot it, and it's empty. He just click, 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 and goes through. And then he notices that the bullets are on the dresser, and he's like, what? And she's like, that wouldn't have happened if you were meant to kill me, or something, like something like that. See, our love was perfect. And so he'd go in to grab a bullet to put in the gun, and she brings the axe down, and this is a really bloody scene. It's a lot to watch a little bit. There's blood everywhere. She's covered in it. She's very angry. He's very dead. It's all over the place. A lot of blood. And so she says, "Sleep tight, Charles." And then it kind of cuts, to a little time later. And she's coming out of that same house. And I guess she's living in it now. I don't know. Aunt Edith is coming to visit her. She's in that same house. So basically what it is, this is her house. I don't know if she was rehabbing it at the time, or, she found out it was in the family, or maybe it's always been in the family and he just never had seen it during their courtship or anything. She comes out of it. She's super happy. Aunt Edith is coming to visit. Basically, it's her house. That's how she knew the key was there. It was all a setup, which is kind of cool. I love all the twists on these things. Yeah, it was a setup, She's coming out to see Aunt Edith. And so Aunt Edith asks her, how her wedding night was, which I guess might be the next day. And she was like, "Oh, it was great. I'm going to have a girl." And Aunt Edith is like, "Great." And, and Aunt Edith is like, "Well, maybe now I should just stay away from men." And then, so Aunt Edith kind of knew what was going down. Peggy's like, "Okay, I promise. And I won't really need a man anymore because I have my little girl, but one day she might need a man. So then we'd have to do something for her." And she's like, "Okay." And so then it's kind of just like a family tradition that goes on where on the wedding night, you kill your husband, you get pregnant with the girl. I don't know. Kind of how it goes, and kind of ends like that. And so, yeah, so Aunt Edith, was in on it all the time, helping her find a perfect love, which, as I was thinking back to the beginning, and I'm like, she was really adamant about them not being together. And I don't know if it was for show and they were maybe just acting it out so that he wouldn't catch on, or there had been previous other guys that weren't, or that she wasn't sure about, and so this has happened before. Or it could happen to where like maybe only this tradition works when it is a perfect love, and she knew that this wasn't one, and so she was trying to get her out of it so that it wouldn't be a waste of time or something like that. Because it seems like she was warning him and she didn't like Charles, but then she was also kind of smiling after they left. So I don't know if it was maybe it was just part of an act, I think, maybe. And, Edith had been watching her for like 20 years. I don't know if she had raised her. It seems like she has. I don't know what happened to Peggy's mom. I'm assuming maybe she got put away or something, and then Aunt Edith raised Peggy for 20 years and then was going to do the same thing. I don't know. And she just got away with it better than her mom did. They don't really mention her mom being alive. Well, I guess Charles didn't know either about the murder until he saw it. But anyway, it's a cool twist on it. It was a fun episode. I didn't really remember it from when last time I saw it years ago, so it was kind of cool to be like, oh, okay, kind of figure it out and be like, I get it. And so yeah, that was the end of the episode. The end of season 1, episode 5, Lover Come Hack to Me. So next, we're going to talk about the Crypt Keeper here, because he comes in at the end of the episode and he's got a little top hat on and he's talking, and he gives us some words of wisdom. And Crypt Keeper, you're so punny. His best pun is,
"Open her closet door and see if any family secrets fall out. Beware of skeletons, unless they're yours truly."
That one was alright. I get it. Skeletons. He's dead. So there's just one little piece of trivia from IMDb that I found here. The title is based on Lover Come Back to Me by Sigmund Romberg, with lyrics by Oscar Hammerstein II, and published in 1928. And that's basically the only trivia they really have here for that. And yeah, that's pretty much the episode. Again, I'm up on Podbean, Podbay, and iTunes. This is the Good Evening Kitties podcast. Next episode is going to be season 1, episode 6, which is the last episode in season 1, and this one's called Collection Completed. This one's kind of a fun one. I like it. I mean, some people maybe not be big on it, but I thought it was a fun one. If you subscribe on iTunes, or rate and review, or if you like the podcast, let other people know. And I will see you next time on the Good Evening Kitties podcast.
I just had quite a scare. really thought my heart was beating again.